Why should the chairman and the CEO be separate persons? We can also go to question 3B of November 2017. Let's see that question. 3B, November 2017. 3B, November 2017. So open your past papers, 3B, November 2017. So when it comes to 3B, November 2017, let me read it. Explain 5 benefits. Explain 5 benefits. Explain 5 benefits of an appropriate competence mix in a board of directors. Explain 5 benefits of an appropriate competence mix in a board of directors. I hope we have answers to that question. That's the question I was looking for earlier on. I hope we have answers to that question. Maybe I can get responses from you guys. I want answers for that question. Sharon, you can give me 5 benefits. Yes?
Yes, I can give you.
So give me the 5 benefits. Answer that question. It was how many marks? It was 5 marks. Would you have scored the 5 marks?
Yes.
Yes, tell me.
Number 1, it is a regulatory requirement.
So it's a regulatory requirement. The second reason?
For sound decision making.
Sound decision making, very true. 3.
Number 3 is for performance evaluation.
Performance evaluation, very true. Number 4?
Number 4, they ensure that there is independent judgment.
In board decision making, very true. And number 5?
To avoid outsourcing services.
Yeah, and I suspect the last 1 point you've read. So that is very.
I have read. Actually, yeah, I read the last one.
The last one, eh?
But I got everything.
Yeah, very true. Very good, very good. Eh? So that question we had already earlier done it. That is under the board competence and mix of skills. So we can go back to answering question 3B, to answering November 2019 question 1C. November 2019, let's go back to November 2019 question 1C. So we see whether whatever we've done so far would have helped us to scoop these 8 marks, because so would have helped us to scoop these 8 marks. I'm going to read the question. Yeah, a question, yes? There is a question. Venita Sifuna asked. Venita, I think, Venita, unmute yourself so that you are able to ask the question, please. Unmute yourself. Okay, we can. Yeah, Kyra. Hello.
Yes.
How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm fine. I had a question.
You have a question, eh?
Yes. Okay. I'm confused. What exactly are the principles? Does the balance of power are they in the principles? Could you please state them again?
Okay. The first principle. Okay. You have the handout with you. Is that true?
Oh no.
You don't have the handout. Okay.
No. Okay. Let me just check. But
yeah,
it's okay.
It is in the WhatsApp. It's in the SGE WhatsApp, and I think we also overshared it on other groups. So you need to have it. So from the handout, the first principle is authority and duty of members.
Okay.
The second one is leadership.
Okay.
The third one is appointment to the board.
Okay.
The fourth one is board competence and mix of skills.
Okay.
And the fifth one is balance of power. That's where we are.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you too. So So Kyra, you're okay. So we can go back to our question. I'm not going to read the whole of it. I'm just argue 4 cases in support of Alexandra Alia, the delegate from Cuba. Argue 4 cases in support of Alexandra Alia, the delegate from Cuba, on why the 2 positions should be held by 2 people. So that one, let's go back to the handout. So balance of power, we've said, one of the ways in which we are able to achieve the balance of power is that the chairman and the CEO should not be the same persons. So that is where we are asked, why should he not be the same persons? We are going to see it. If you look at the handout anyway, why balance of power, you can open the second page. You can open the second page of the handout. You can open the second page of the handout. And those ones who don't have the handout, we're also going to project it. We are going to project it. So why balance of power? Why should the chairman and the CEO not be the same person? One of the reasons is accountability. Because if the chairman was the same as the CEO, to whom would he be accounting to? And consequently, the chairman and the CEO needs to account to the board, which is chaired by the chairman. The second reason is to provide a system of checks and balances. To provide a system of checks and balances. That there is no one who has all the powers within him. That there are checks and there are checks within the organization. The third reason is to eliminate conflict of interest. And we know what is conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is when your own personal interests take precedence over the organizational interests. And to ensure that that there is no conflict of interest, to check that there is no conflict of interest within the organization, then the 2 positions should be held by different persons. The fourth reason is to enhance disclosure of information. Because information is very important in decision making. Information is very important in ensuring that the organization is run efficiently. And the CEO will disclose information to the board, and the board will proceed to disclose that information to the shareholders. However, where the organization has the same the chairman and the CEO as the same person, definitely the information flow is highly limited. And finally, to also improve on decision making, because there is that consultation between the chairman and the CEO, and this one will lead to quality decisions being made. So I hope that one is clear. So we would have scored. So anyone who gave out 4 points and explained them appropriately would have scored 8 marks. So this is a very important area. I also want us to move to May 2019. May 2019, question 4A. May 2019, question 4A. May 2019, question 4A. We are told to evaluate 5 shortcomings of stewardship approach to corporate governance. So we need to understand what is stewardship approach. Theories of corporate governance, we are going to look at them later on in these classes. When we talk of the theories of corporate governance, one is stewardship theory. And when we talk of the stewardship theory, this is where the chairman and the CEO is the same person. So that is what we call duality. The chairman and the CEO is the same person. So the organization has that dual management style where the chairman and the CEO is the same person. So what are the challenges to such management? So what are the challenges to that approach of management? So those questions, I do believe they have the same bearing. Is that true? I believe we could also have been able to handle these questions. So one of the approach is that there is rampant conflict of interest in such an organization. Then information flow is also limited. So I can see some for reason Nigani, that is Beatrice. Beatrice is asking a question. Four reason ni gani? I think that is where we were looking at earlier on why the separation of power is important. And we have said that was tested in November 2019, question 1C. November 2019, question 1C. So you'll go look at your past paper so that you see that. But then now we are looking at the limitations to stewardship approach, and we have defined it as where the chairman and the CEO is the same person. There is that conflict of interest. The second reason is that there is limited information flow. It also hinders accountability. There is also poor decision making, and there is no system of checks and balances. Among other reasons that you may support. So one of the ways, going back to our class, we have said that one of the ways in which we are able to separate the roles, we are able to achieve the balance of power is that the chairman and the CEO should be separate persons. Then the second way is that at least a third of the board should be made of non-executive directors. And that takes us to a very important question. We ask ourselves, who are the non-executive directors? The non-executive directors are those people who are not involved, directors who are not involved in the day-to-day management of the company. And why do we need them? Why are they necessary? That's another question that's very important. Why are the non-executive directors important in an organization? One of the reasons is to ensure independent decision making, because definitely non-executive directors are the ones to chair the sensitive committees that are involved on matters of governance. And if we ask ourselves, governance is just to ensure that we are running the organization efficiently and effectively, eliminating conflict of interest and ensuring that organizational interests take precedence over the personal interests. So that's what we want to achieve. And one of the ways in which the non-executive directors are the ones to chair the board. The board is chaired by a non-executive director. Note that the chairman is a non-executive director. He's not involved in the day-to-day management of the company. Then we also have the executive directors. The executive directors are the ones who are involved in the day-to-day management of the company. So the executive directors, for instance, we have the CEO. And one of the reasons why we need these NEDs is to ensure independent decision making, to also eliminate conflict of interest, also to ensure quality decision making, so that decisions that are made by the management must be approved by the board. And that will enhance proper decision making. Among other reasons that we've captured under the reasons for balance of power. We've also captured them under the balance of power. So the independent directors are the ones to chair the committees, within the board. So we are 20 members in the board. So within the board, there are committees that are created to ensure proper running of the organization. There are very sensitive boards that are important in ensuring good governance. For instance, we have the audit committee. The audit committee can only be chaired by an NED. When I talk of NED, I mean an executive director. We also have the nomination and remuneration committee, because we need this remuneration committee to determine the remunerations of the executive directors. The executive directors cannot be determining their own pay, that the CEO is the one to determine his own pay. Then there would be that conflict of interest. We need these people to ensure independence. Even in terms of remuneration, we need a NED to chair the remuneration committee. and also performance evaluation committee, because the management cannot evaluate themselves. And we need an independent mind who is not involved in the management to also make decisions in regard to the performance evaluation of the management. So I believe when it comes to balance of power, it is very clear as one of the principles of good corporate governance. And I feel you are now viewing why organizations, even your organization, your business, why it's collapsing, because definitely it may be most likely it's a family-owned business. You are the only one who makes decisions. You've not established like a small board to be advising you on these issues. So I believe we can now see what we need to do to ensure corporate survival, because we've said principles of good corporate governance are very essential, very important in ensuring that organizations survive. Question? There's a question, eh? Yes. I want to read a question here. Which question are you answering? I'm really trying to go through the principles of good corporate governance that are documented in the handout. And as I try to go through them, I am looking at the past paper questions that have ever been tested in that area. I have not started with the question one because I had already promised you that I'm going to handle question one. Let alone after you have internalized the principles of good corporate governance, I'm going to help you answer that question one from May 2016. So I'm really trying to help you internalize the principles of good corporate governance. So that is it. Any other question? Why have non-executives, I can see why have non-executive directors, that is from Sarah. Why do we have non-executive directors? I assume that's the question. The non-executive directors are those directors that are not involved in the day-to-day management of the company. And one of the examples is the chairman. So they are engaged, they are not engaged on full-time basis, unlike the management. For instance, the CEO in your organization is there throughout to oversee the management of the company. But when it comes to the chairman, rarely do you even know who is the chairman of the board. He comes once in a while when there is a board meeting. So these are the non-executive directors. And why do we need them? They are not involved in the day-to-day management of the company, and they should be independent. They should not be independent. And when you talk of being independent, they should not be suppliers of the organization. They should not be family relatives of the management. They should not be related in any way with the management. They should not have any business transactions with the company so that they can be independent. And why we need them is definitely to ensure independent decision making or the independent judgment. We also need them to ensure that there lays that proper evaluation, performance evaluation of the management, because the CEO cannot be evaluating himself. We need an independent person to evaluate him. We've also said to also eliminate conflict of interest, among other reasons that are stated in the handout. So any other question so when elaborating your points, are we required to strictly make reference from the case study? Okay, we are going to go to the case study later. Then I can see from Ms. Let, that is Ms. Let, is this system of checks and balances same as supervision? So system of checks and balances is definitely to ensure that no one has unfettered power. And on top of systems of checks and balances, to ensure that the power is checked. The power that you have is checked. That you do not have unfettered power, a power that is not checked. That whatever you are doing, somebody is also ensuring that he's supervising you. It can be the same concept with supervision, that there is somebody who is checking whatever activities that you are undertaking in the organization. So that's what it means by balance of power. Then maybe we must have them in order to ensure good decision making. Okay, so I think I have answered most of your questions. We move to the next principle, which is corporate compliance. Corporate compliance means that you're supposed to follow the rules and laws that have been stipulated by the government. So for instance, if you're in the construction industry, you must get a certificate to the National Construction Authority. You must get the permits that are required for you to run that business. You must pay taxes so that you are in good books with the KRA. So that is another reason why, for instance, I do not want to cite examples in this class, but maybe we can cite, talk of Keroche Breweries, whatever issues it's facing today on issues to do with tax compliance. A giant organization, but then is facing difficulties as at now due to tax issues. So for corporate survival, an organization should be in good standing with Kenya Revenue Authority and other regulatory bodies. With the other regulatory bodies, that is the government institutions that regulate that industry. So that one is very important, issues to do with corporate compliance. The next one is the responsibility to stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders? We have the customers. Be responsible to your customers. Respond to their queries. Respond to their questions. Talk of suppliers. Be responsible to them. Pay them on time. And that's why sometimes you find some organizations, some supermarkets having empty shelves because nobody wants to supply to them goods. Because once you supply to them, definitely you will have to wait for 2 years or 3 years before you are paid. So be timely, be responsible to your suppliers, pay them on time, and that is one of the important principles of good corporate governance. And then the other one is management of corporate risks. And when you talk of the corporate risks, we have the financial risks, we have the event risks. For instance, coronavirus is also a risk. That is that is where we classify them under the natural catastrophe. So those are some of the things that you're supposed to see. How do you manage risks? This is a topic on its own that we shall do later, issues to do with risks management.